Hello everyone, Carter Krishna are here for Beyond the 90. Today, April 9th, 2026 is the 15th anniversary of the rebirth or the on-the-pitch rebirth of the NASL. Actually, the league was relaunched in 2009, and I was the first employee. I was privileged to be the first employee and privileged to be part of the relaunch. USL Championship is where it is today. Second Division Soccer, lower division soccer is where it is today because the NASL returned. And these guys, the Fort Lauderdale Strikers, returned to the pitch on April 9th, 2011 in a match against Edmonton at home. Tampa Bay Rowdies returned actually, let me correct myself. So what is the Tampa Bay Rowdies now, and was always meant to be the Tampa Bay Rowdies, played their opening game the previous year in the USSF D2 League, which was the hybrid league we had between NASL and USL that US Soccer had formed. Because of a trademark dispute, they did not have the name. We could not officially use the name Tampa Bay Rowdies, but they were forever green and gold. So FC Tampa Bay, as it was the Rowdies. And starting in 2012, could use the Rowdies name. And we had, I think, 4 matches that first night, April 9th. And what became very, very obvious is that what was a concept of having an elevated second division league that had more professional standards and operated more like a league than USL had previously acted, which was like an independent business that franchised clubs. Conceptually, we always thought it could work, but then we learned it would work on April 9th. And some great matches that night. Edmonton came into Fort Lauderdale and beat Fort Lauderdale 2-1. A big upset. Those two teams played later in the year in the playoffs, and Fort Lauderdale beat Edmonton, I think 5-0, 4-0 or 5-0. So they got their measure of revenge in the postseason. Fort Lauderdale gets to the final, loses to Minnesota, which was our league-owned team in the final. Fort Lauderdale loses in the final at Lockhart to Minnesota in a monsoon. And Minnesota, as a result, which was our league-owned team, we attracted an investor the next year in Dr. Bill McGuire, who then rebrands the team Minnesota United, and the rest is history. They moved to MLS. So much came from that. That first year we had Montreal Impact in the league. Obviously, they moved to MLS the next year. North Carolina Railhawks become North Carolina FC. They just ceased operations a few months ago. Tampa Bay Rowdies are still going. Miami FC, which was a later expansion team in NASL, they're still going in USL. Indy 11, which was a team that we announced in 2013 and launched play in 2014, they're still going in the USL Championship. Ottawa Fury, which we announced a few months after April 9th, 2021. I think I was up in Ottawa for the press conference the next month, maybe, or was it June? Maybe it was June of 2021. So Ottawa Fury come into our league. They stayed in second division of US Soccer until they were forced out by CONCACAF, right? They went to the USL Championship after they were done in NASL, and it was the actions of CONCACAF that forced them to cease operations, because CONCACAF said USL must be limited to second division teams in Canada must play in the Canadian Premier League. Now, of course, if you're an MLS team in Canada, we're going to make an exception for you. That's the way CONCACAF operates. But it was a historic night because we were able to elevate the standard of second division and lower division play. This is not something USL was going to do on its own and had proved they couldn't do on their own. So what happens to USL? They get new leadership. They start to react because they have to compete. They have in Orlando City, a team that launched that year but had moved from Austin, a high-level side. And then they still had Charleston. They were able to attract some new investors, upgrade the level of their clubs. They eventually get the likes of FC Cincinnati and Lou City and Sacramento to invest. Now, we had announced San Antonio as an expansion team in 2010. That team, the San Antonio Scorpions, were very good from 2012 to 2015, one of the best teams in our league in the NASL. It's too tricky a maneuver to explain here, but basically San Antonio folded one day in NASL and they popped back up a few days later in USL as a different entity with different owners, but same venue. The different owners being the San Antonio Spurs, SSC, Spurs Sports and Entertainment Group. But all of this was made possible by the NASL launching and providing competition in the marketplace and forcing USL to elevate its level. Now, the NASL's collapse had a lot to do with hubris and an awful lot to do with the New York Cosmos coming into the league. But that's a story for another time. I firmly believe if the Cosmos thing had not happened, NASL would have survived. But that's a whole conversation for another time. And I think USL survives in the form it potentially would have survived in as a high level incubator for MLS players, and there's no need to have MLS Next Pro, which is what it is. So, competition in the marketplace. This is why I just mentioned the dirty word, MLS Next Pro. This is why, again, we cannot allow, as a soccer playing nation, as a football playing nation, for MLS to monopolize the pyramid, which is why the next several moves of USL, then starting with the labor situation and also their launch of the Premier League and the Premier League, which is Division 1 and Pro Rel, and what investors to get over the line in the next 6 months are so critical. Because as I've said before, and as has been reiterated since I made that video, by the way, a couple of weeks ago, reiterated to me by multiple sources, the MLS Next Pro is now on the front foot in the soccer wars. And I'm not rooting against MLS Next Pro. Competition is good. USL probably shouldn't have the lower division space to themselves either. But it's more dangerous for MLS controlling the entire pyramid is more dangerous than USL having the lower division space to themselves. Now, preference would have been there'd be somebody like the NASL competing with USL in the lower division space. But still, the more dangerous thing is if MLS creates a monopoly. People in America seem to like monopolies, even though they talk about competition. They seem to love oligarchy and monopolies and throwing taxpayer dollars at billionaires. So it's not like it is in other sophisticated Western countries. Excuse me. Strike that word civilized. I did not mean to use that. Sophisticated Western societies where there is an understanding of the plight of the working class. There is not a uncritical reverence of billionaires, and there is an understanding that free market competition is what it is and provides certain things for society. Americans like to say Europeans are very socialist. But what I find in this space and in big business in the US is that the US is, in fact, there's more government involvement in business in the United States than there is abroad, really. I mean, like putting their fingers on the scale. And that's also, speaking of the NASL story, US soccer is not government. In fact, I advocate the government take a little greater look at them, use their oversight authority. But U.S. soccer put their finger on the scale when it came to the NASL, although plenty of self-inflicted wounds for the NASL as well. So anyway, wanted to register that it was the 15th anniversary of the relaunch of the NASL. And if you have any thoughts on that, feel free to reach out to me and leave some thoughts in the comments.